The forests of India's western Ghats are teeming with life. Many amphibian species live there, and a few have only been discovered in the past few decades. As frogs hop from log to log and branch to branch, one species doesn't see what all the fuss is about when it comes to living in the sun. The bizarre-looking purple frog prefers the subterranean lifestyle, and nothing could make them come out of their soft-soiled homes. Well, nothing except one thing. But an offbeat lifestyle away from predators is just one of the many strategies in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, search Cassie Michelle on YouTube. And today we're talking about a frog with a secret underground life, but more on that later.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of someone with an underground life. Hannah Montana.
Oh, yes. Actually, I was thinking like sewer workers, miners.
No, I was thinking of someone who leads a secret life. It's that.
Dwarves.
I don't know. I just because Miley Cyrus sang at the New Year's thing, so that's why I was thinking of that underground life. Anyway, this purple. That's about all that this animal and Miley Cyrus have in common: underground lives. But we're talking about the purple frog, which is both of those things for once.
Purple and a frog?
Yes, the names match up. It's not like, oh, but it's not actually a frog or it's not actually purple.
It is, and purple animals are not common.
No, they're not. And this animal it's an interesting one.
It's
for
like
sure.
a blue food.
Yeah, I mean, you can make blue food really common if you leave it out.
Or if you put blue dye in it.
if you just let the right kind of mold grow on it. My bread turns blue pretty frequently.
But mold is usually like a little greener than blue.
Sure.
It's like blueberries are actually purple on the outside, green on the inside. Or like darkish green.
Huh? Blueberries are blue to me. At least the ones I get.
Purple
sometimes
grapes
purplish. But we're talking about the purple frog, which is, yeah, I mean, it's pretty purple, I guess. I'll talk about it in the description. But we're going to call it here the tubby tush tunneler.
Nice.
The amphibious puffmole. And Mr. Munch. I was going to go with
Munch.
If you don't remember Mr. Munch, search your nightmares for the purple animatronic drummer thing from Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, he's not that nightmarish. He looks like a dinosaur.
Look him up. Look him up. He is definitely the reason why they created Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, yeah. I guess the plushes look way better. And there's a guy in a suit that looks really good. Well, really good is relative to the animatronic.
He's the Grimace of Chuck E. Cheese, and he's way worse.
I feel like I need to see him in motion.
Mr. Munch?
Yeah.
I feel like I never want to see him in motion. Because that means I'm going to die, probably. I don't know. I watched some Five Nights at Freddy's videos recently, and I'm just animatronics are the worst. Anyway, let's taxonomize Mr. Munch here.
Well, before you get into that, so we downloaded TikTok because it's Vine 2.0 now.
Sure.
And well, it's probably not as good as Vine because there's horrible things, including a thing where people are like acting as animatronics. So like they'll do a song as if they are an animatronic, and it's horrifying because they're good at it.
Or they just do the robot and sing a song about the laughing place, like in Splash Mountain.
They'll do like some like song, like there's like 10 songs that are always in TikToks. and they'll just do one of those as animatronics, and they move with an unearthly just gestations.
Gait.
Yeah.
Gestations. Isn't that how long it takes for you to go from a zygote to being born?
What is that? What is that part of speech for gesture?
It's gestures, the word.
Gestures. Yeah, I guess.
Gesticulation is what you're
That's
looking
it.
for.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Gestation. Can we... Okay, let's taxonomize this before we talk about TikTok for a single second more. It's in a kingdom, the purple frog is. The purple frog is in the kingdom you know, love, and are in. That kingdom is, of course, Animalia. Phylum is Chordata, because it's got a spine. Class is Amphibia, because we're dealing with a frog. And also because we're dealing with a frog, the order is Anura. True frogs. And toads are all in here. The family is, here we go, Nasicabatrachidae. Nasicabatrachidae. And the genus is Nasicabatrachus. And the species is Sayadrensis. Sayadrensis. So usually when you say these, I have time to try to figure out what the emphasis is on the word. But yeah, so the nomenclature is Nasicabatrachus Sayadrensis. Did you pick it just for this?
No. Well, I mean, it's not like one of the first species ever discovered in time. So although new species are usually they'll be Johnidae.
Johnidae. Pink Floydiae.
Yeah. Yeah. But not this time.
All right. Well, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, record scratch. Never mind, because it's a frog, and we've done lots of frogs, and we all know that a group of frogs is called an army. So it's time for the replacement for that whenever this happens, nitty-gritty nomenclature. So, Joey, what does Nasicabatrachus mean? Is it... so I'll give you your four options. First of all, it's Sanskrit. I hope that helps. Is it A, dirt breath, B, nose frog, C, purple frog, or D, purple balloon? Nasicabatrachus, which is the genus name.
I'm going to go with nose frog, final answer.
Ding, 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 you're correct. Was that a guess or did you know? Because it was...
No, that was a guess. I was between the other two, because I know that sometimes you come up with fake things by just looking at it and saying what comes to mind. And the other two are very much that. But I was thinking maybe dirt frog because of the way that humans usually encounter them emerging from the dirt. So they look like little turnips come to life. But...
I was hoping that dirt breath would get you because breath and trachea and its back trachis. And if you see it written out,
I ruled out the easy ones that you came up with by being small brained, and then my small brainedness did not get me to the trick that you had planned.
My trap was way too smart. All right, well, I'll definitely have better ones, I guess. Yeah, I was hoping that purple frog would be just on the nose enough, but
on the nose, interesting.
Yes, nose frog. So this is Sanskrit, and if you don't know what Sanskrit is the base language in India, Pakistan area. In that region of the world, a lot of English words come from Sanskrit because English is a mix of a lot of original languages. But when you think of Sanskrit, you usually think of Hindi, and Hindi is spoken in India, and that's where this guy lives. So there's a small sliver of land, slightly inland, near the southwestern shore of India, called the Palgat Gap. And that's the only place where the purple frog lives. It likes loose, damp soil at very low elevations.
Oh, same.
I like firm, damp soil. I don't deal with the loose stuff.
You don't like it in between your toes and stuff like that?
No. I want it to be firm enough for me to sleep on when it comes time to sleep. When sleeps are ready. Now that we know where it lives, let's talk about what it looks like, because we're in for a treat. You should definitely look it up eventually if you are not driving, but let me paint you a word picture. So it's a pretty weird-looking frog. It's tough to... So it looks like an inflated version of one of those puffed-up desert rain frogs. One of those frogs that just looks like it's blown itself up and is just standing there to make itself look bigger. So that's kind of your base tan there. It looks like it's constantly holding its breath. Its body is bifurcated, so there are two large puffed up sections on its back. So there's like a valley in the middle. So it kind of looks like a little tush. Yeah. This is why it's the tubby tush tunneler. It has smooth, slimy skin that is brownish purplish. Some Google images look very purple, but those might be doctored. On the whole, it definitely seems like it's a very muddy purple, which is still purple, kind of like the Malabar giant squirrel, but it's not a vibrant purple like you might think. The head is short, squat, and triangular, so it kind of looks like a mole's face, which is why I also called it the amphibious puff mole.
It does have a mole-ish face, and like tiny little black beady eyes like a mole.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is that usually frogs have enormous eyes that stick up above their head and take up a good portion of their head. But these are really small and beady. They still stick up above the head, but it definitely looks like a mole for sure. And there's a ridge of skin that extends from each eye to its pointy little nose, and then another ridge that goes from below the nose out along the jawline. So it looks like a star-nosed mole with these ridges of skin kind of going out if you look directly at it. And at certain angles, it even looks like its eyes are on stalks like a slug. So it's really otherworldly, even though its eyes are not on stalks. But it looks like it has this big X and all comes down to the middle of its nose. So basically, it's a frog, a star-nosed mole, and a soft-shelled turtle all rolled into one.
Yeah, okay.
It's the platypus of amphibians. And it's all puffed up with conceit.
Yeah.
But the question is, would I be able to spot this easily if I were in the Palget Gap? Is it big enough for me to see it, or would it be too small?
Well, let's
for me
see.
To notice if I were trekking.
That brings us to something that I like to call Measure Up. Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal sizes, dimensions, and relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We have not a chittering, not a saying, or a singing. We have a cooing this week.
I also want to point out that every week you say the official listener's favorite part of the show, and for the first time, I've recognized the semantic or the lexical ambiguity. It's like it's only the official listener's favorite part of the show. It's not the listener's official favorite part of the show. But if you're an official listener, then this is your favorite part of the show, and I find that offensive.
If you have only heard of the podcast but never listened, it's not your favorite part of the show.
It's like a subscriber's favorite part of the show. Anyway, back to it.
So we do have a new Measure Up intro this week. We teased it before, forgot about it for a week, and then remembered it. It's from Mason. I
know that guy.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
That was Measure Up.
He was hulking out for a bit, and then he was amused by it.
No, that was him going Super Saiyan. He does that every episode, and it's a lot of screaming and butt clenching.
And
But
gnashing of butts.
eventually he does get to Ultra Instinct, and then there's just no stopping him at that point.
I don't know what those words mean.
I
know what they mean separately.
I guess it's Super Saiyan mode. I really don't know what they mean either. I just heard some people talk about Ultra Instinct and Dragon Ball Z together, so that sounds like a really good stage to be in if you're fighting. So we'll go with that.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks, Mason, for sending that in with your baby hands and fingers and brain. But also thank you, Bibby, for actually doing that.
Yeah, for doing the actual work. And also saying measure up.
Yeah, and also letting us know what was actually happening. And hopefully you don't hear Mason. He was crying earlier, but hopefully he doesn't continue.
Okay, let's talk length. They're 52.8 millimeters to 89.9 millimeters, which is like they're around 7 centimeters. It's like 3-4 inches.
Okay.
So 89.9 millimeters is what we're going with. How many purple frogs go into India's tallest waterfall? Here's a hint. Kunchakal? There's your hint.
That
No, Kunchakal.
conjugal?
Kunchikal.
Okay. Kunchikal?
Yeah, it's probably got Sanskrit all up in it. The Kunchakal Falls is a cascading type, which, do you remember what that means?
It falls. It's water that goes from up to down.
Yeah. On a series of steps, basically. So it's
tiered.
like a staircase. It's tiered. It's staged.
It's not like Angel Falls where it just goes off
Plummets.
one thing. Okay. That's what this is?
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, I have no idea how high waterfalls are.
The problem with the waterfalls is that they come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah. I've never heard of this one. So it's not like Niagara or Victoria or Angel Falls level of height or volume. But I don't know. Let's say 500 feet. Yeah, from the top of the cliff part to where the water lands. That sounds good. And we're talking about what? 7 centimeters is 2.7 inches. Okay. Time for me to do math. I'm going to say 2,200.
2,200 frogs?
2,200 purple frogs stacked end to end would make a great and very slippery and odd-looking ladder up the falls.
Well, the correct answer is 5,061 frogs.
Oh, wow, almost more than double. So this is like 1,000 foot, like a 1,200 foot falls?
It's a 455 meter or
1,000 foot crutch.
or 1,493 foot waterfall. Yes. Okay.
Now I'm just thinking 1,000 foot crutch. You've totally destroyed my train of thought. That was big falls, though.
Big falls. It's impressive if you see a video of it. Let's talk weight. And by the way, females are larger than males. Males are about a third the size. I think we're talking about female size here. They're about 165 grams. How many frogs go into India's largest animal? Do you know what that is?
India's largest animal. It's probably the elephant.
Yeah, the Indian elephant. Here's a hint. Indian elephants are smaller than African elephants and tend to live in jungle areas where their smaller size is an advantage, though they can also live in grasslands.
How many grams?
165.
All right, that's 5.8 ounces. Wow. All right. I know African bull elephants are about 11,000 pounds. So I'm going to say this is 7,000. No. I'm going to say 22,000 frogs go into the Indian elephant.
22,000, you said?
Uh-huh.
The correct answer is 24,191.
I knew I was going to be close.
They're about 8,800 pounds, or 3,992 kilograms.
I went with 8,000 pounds for the Indian elephant, so that's why I was off. But nice.
Pretty close. Okay. That's all I got.
All right, so let's do some fast facts before we dive into the major fact. This is actually a very understudied purple frog. Out of all the purple frogs, it is the least studied.
No, it has a backup just in case it actually breaks its leg.
Yeah, in case it can't perform, it has an understudy. But no, it was actually only discovered, I think, in 2003, and and it's very difficult to observe for reasons we will discuss later. But one of those reasons is that it only lives in a very small strip of land in western India, and there aren't very many of them, as far as we know. But what we do know is that it mostly eats termites, but it also eats other little insects and bugs it finds, kind of like a mole. And some local communities in the area will make amulets out of these frogs and give them to children in the hopes that they will help them reduce the children's fear of storms.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure where the connection is, because I didn't look into the...
I kind of have an idea, but we can talk about that when we talk about the major fact.
Well, then let's go ahead and do just that.
Okay. Well, purple frogs lead an interesting lifestyle in that they spend the vast majority of their life underground. Because of that, they're very elusive. They were only first officially discovered in 2003. The locals had already known about them, obviously, because they were making necklaces. And some papers apparently described the species before 2003, but the people that wrote the paper in 2003 were like, who needs it?
Who needs it?
But this is the first time that they had captured a specimen, measured it, and all the whole 9 yards. They went undiscovered for a long time because they only come out when field scientists are cozied up by their lab computers to get out of the rain. Why? Because even now, much of their underground activities are unknown to researchers. It lives underground all year round, except for when it emerges for 2 weeks to breed.
It's like a cicada.
Yeah. Purple frogs come out during the monsoon season when rainfall increases, when researchers aren't trying to spend their nights in the jungle. So during that time, males call out to females over the din of waterfall and rain. They only have 2 weeks to find a mate, or their magic runs out and they can no longer be Santa Frog.
I would have had no idea what you were talking about had we not watched the Santa Claus 2. Had I not watched that for the first time this year.
But yeah, the pressure's on for these frogs. Except for the consequence is not a vague, you can't be Santa anymore. It's you can't procreate and continue your lineage.
That's important for a frog.
Yeah. And above ground, they look kind of weird, as we've talked about. Their bloated little bodies and small heads make them look like a frog in a funhouse mirror. But their weird bodies are designed to burrow and drill underground. Their pointed noses seem like they would be ideal for drilling in soft soil. underground living isn't new for frogs, right? Because a lot of frogs burrow underground and emerge to feed.
Like bullfrogs.
Yeah, I think a lot of toads live underground, but not so with our purple friend. They feed entirely underground on a diet of what you mentioned is mostly termites. They have a special buccal groove that helps them feed underground, which I don't know what that is. I tried to look it up. I do not.
It sounds like, if it's anything like buccal pumping, which is what like the snakehead does when it breathes actual air. I think it's like a vacuum way of feeding.
Maybe a tube-like. Maybe
Yeah, like using suction power to do things is buccal.
Huh.
I believe. I don't know. I'm the shot in the dark here. What? How does it spelled?
It like buckle pump. Buccal.
And what is the other word?
Groove, like when you're playing the bass.
Oh yeah, our teeth have this.
Yeah. Which is why I couldn't find anything about this frog.
I don't understand any of the words I'm saying, so let's move on.
Yeah. Tadpoles are so they emerge in the rainy season during monsoon times. So that they are born in the storm. So maybe that's why people are like, look, here's the little ornaments of the storm. Wear them on your neck. Like that kind of thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Don't be afraid. Look at this doofy little frog that the storm produced. Storms can't be bad if they make these doofs.
It'll protect you. This is doofy frog.
So tadpoles are born in the rainy season, and they're especially adapted to living in torrents and waterfalls. They have special mouths with keratinized teeth that allow them to cling to rocks. So they use their mouths to climb up moist rock faces, especially near waterfalls. These weird little teeth continuously replaced like a shark's. And they studied this with a microscope because they're that tiny. Not the frog in general, but
the teeth.
The tadpole teeth, yeah. They're very, very small. So they use them to like suction their way up rocks. And they literally spend their lives going from climbing up these rock faces to living entirely underground.
It's just they don't live unless it's hard.
Yeah. Well,
the
soil is soft.
They run toward the roar.
Yes, they do. Probably not. That's probably exactly what they're trying to avoid because they live underground.
And tigers live where they live, so.
Yeah. I don't think a tiger is going to have much to do with a tiny frog.
Probably not. But
although, speaking of tiny, it is fairly large for subterranean frogs.
Especially I don't know many.
Primarily subterranean frogs. But that's all I got. It's a purple frog.
It's definitely a frog that looks like it spends most of its time away from others.
Playing WoW.
It just plays World of Warcraft. I'm trying to find a picture of this amulet, but I can't. Like if it's like just a dried carcass of the frog that people wear around their neck, or if it's like they craft a version of it. I'm not really sure. Because I'm seeing a lot of crafted versions of it, but my initial thought with that statement was that they just they would find a dead one or something and then desiccate it and attach it to a necklace so that everybody's just walking around wearing these dead frogs on their neck. But maybe that's a little bit crazy. Maybe people just use glass and fashion a nice one.
Oh, yeah, who knows? Well,
but
someone does.
Someone does.
Who among us, you and me, knows? No one.
If you do know, let us know. Tweet at us. But for you out there in podcasts, go singing in the rain, burrow your way into obscurity, and help children overcome their fear of storms like the purple frog here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey LDT listeners, thanks for listening to the end of the episode. For your loyalty, you get a shameless self-promotion from us. If you haven't already, leaving a review on your favorite podcast app can really help us grow. But telling your podcast-loving friends about us is even better. Also, don't forget to send in your Measure Up intros and animal suggestions to ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. As always, thanks, most of all, for listening.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
I'm tired of coughing.
Aren't we all? What a lame Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, before it got Levitate, it was just the worst.